Hey guys, Effie here. Today I'm making this project for the Tons Spring 2018 release block up. I am so excited to use this stamp because this set really is larger than life. And when I say set, I mean the actual image because it's just a 6x6 clear set, but the Dahlia Bouquet image is really big and it covers the entire front of an A2 panel. So let's get started with my project. I started off by white heat embossing this large bouquet image onto a piece of watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL 140-pound paper. And for my paints, I'm using Ken Oliver Colorburst watercolor powders. And to paint, I'm using two Pentel Aqua brushes, one fine tip and one medium tip, and I'm switching off between the two as I paint. So as I paint, well actually before I paint, I wet the area that I want to paint first with some clean water, and then I start dropping in bits of pigment. I'm adding Peony color burst to the inner portions of all of my petals. Now, while this is a large stamped image, the images within the bouquet aren't that large. So this didn't really take me that long to paint, but there are a lot of individual images that you need to actually color in. So I just drop in bits of my peony color burst into the inner portions of my dahlia petals, and then I take my second medium tip brush and I blend that color out just a tiny bit. There isn't that much blending to do because the petals aren't that large. So I'm going to color in a few of the dahlias using the peony color burst. I'm not going to color in all the dahlias the same color. I want there to be a little bit of color variations. So after I paint a few of the dahlias with this paint, I'm going to switch off and color the remainder of my dahlias using my fuchsia color burst. So I use my peony color burst and fuchsia color burst, and then for the leaves I'll be using my sap green color burst. As I continue to paint, I switch off between the two brushes that you see here, the fine tip brush, which has the pigment on it, and then the medium tip brush, which I generally keep clean. The medium tip brush I will use to blend out color or apply clean water to my panel. And I also keep a piece of paper towel next to my work area, and I just use that piece of paper towel to dab off my brush in case there is too much water or too much pigment on my brush tip. So that is how I control the flow of moisture or water that is on my brush tip. I also keep an acrylic block nearby where I squeeze a little bit of clean water onto, and if I ever need a little bit of extra water on my brush tip, I will just dab my brush tip into that clean water reservoir basically that I keep on hand. So this is how I control the amount of moisture or lack of moisture on my brush. I'm just going to turn on some music while I finish painting, and once I'm done, I'll be back. Once I finished painting the actual bouquet and blossoms, I painted in the vase using my gold Wink of Stella pen, and then I added some shading to the base of my vase using black color bursts. And this will just ground my bouquet into my panel so that it doesn't look like it's floating. Next, I'm going to take the largest die from our double stitch rectangles large die collection, and I'm going to cut my panel into an A2 size panel, at the same time adding stitching to the edges of the actual panel. Next, I'm just going to take our double-sided adhesive and cut this into strips and use these strips to adhere my watercolor panel onto a side folding A2 base. I like to use our double-sided adhesive with heavier weight watercolor paper because it holds up well against the card base. So once I've mounted the panel onto my base, I white heat embossed the sentiment onto some black cardstock, and then I cut the sentiment into strips and mounted it right onto my watercolored panel with some foam tape, giving it some extra dimension. Next, I added some of our clear rhinestones around my Dahlia bouquet. Our clear rhinestones are really gorgeous and a nice alternative to dewdrops. They have no backing, so they take on whatever color you adhere them against. So I just glued them on using multi-matte medium around my Dahlia bouquet, and my card is now complete. I hope you'll stop by the blog to start hopping for the rest of our Spring 2018 release, as we have some really talented designers joining us and the rest of the team as well. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.